Hello and welcome back to the Publisher podcast from Media Voices. I'm Peter Houston and we're exploring the people and the products powering publishing, both through this podcast and in our adjacent weekly newsletter, which you can sign up for at voices.media. This week I'm speaking with Sean Cornwell, CEO of Immediate Media. Sean will be speaking on stage to Colin Morrison at our November AI Forum in London, all about what AI means to immediate media. There are still tickets left, but we're anticipating selling out, so head to flashesandflames.com to book. For me, immediate media is something of a ray of hope amidst all the AI gloom. Over the last 2 or 3 years, the business led by Sean has looked really hard for ways to make AI work to its advantage. Sean and I spoke about optimism, and how important it is to focus on the things that you can control, the role of real human beings in content creation, and how to bring those humans on the AI journey. And of course, I asked him about where print fits into all this. But I started by asking Sean to try to sum up what AI means to immediate media.
It's an interesting question in terms of what is our starting point. I guess there's a few things. Firstly, and this is a core belief of mine, and I guess reflective probably of my background working all my career in digital pure play businesses, is that actually this presents a lot of opportunities, right? It also represents a lot of change, potentially a fair bit of disruption, but I think that I always view, whatever the change or the technological disruption, my philosophy is one where actually we got to lean into this. There's no point either putting your head in the sand and hoping that it goes away. And frankly, there's limited upside in railing against the dying of the sun and the big, horrible, nasty American platforms. It is what it is. And I always say to our people, my teams, focus on what you can control, right? And focus and be clear that you've got a very clear strategy, that you know where you're heading, that your people understand the why, and make sure that you are executing against that strategy as well as you possibly can. And then the rest will be what the rest will be, right? The end result will be an output and an outcome. But if you're focusing on what you can control and you're doing it to your best of ability and you're really clear about the why and the what and the how, then, you're in as good a shape as you can be, right? None of us are miracle makers. And AI, and I take that approach to AI, and I very much take that approach to how I talk to our people at our regular all hands in all our communication. We lean into it and we try and embrace it, right?
So you talked about what you can control.
I
absolutely get that. But what can you control? What have you actually got control of there?
So if you take a step back and you think about the disruption posed by AI to media, to creatives, to content producers, there's a very obvious disruption, right? You're potentially entering a world of infinite content. And how, in a world of infinite content, what is defensible, right? What is unique? What position should you go and play in? If you flip the question and go, okay, well, what is defensible? What cannot just be replicated? And it's not a question of now, but it's just think about it in 18 months or 36 months or 5 years' time. What is defensible? Then actually you come down to a few core things. And kind of the model through which I think about it is there's a core layer which is absolute table stakes, right? Which is you have to have first-party relationships. In other words, you've got to have a direct relationship with as many of your users, customers, audience as possible. If you don't have that, then I'd be pretty worried, right? And at Immediate, this has been a focus for us for many years, and it's part of the reasons why we really went deep on digital subscriptions 4 or 5 years ago, precisely because of that. So that's kind of table stakes. Then, if you look at it from a media owner, content owner perspective, there are probably no more than 4, maybe 5 things which really are defensible. The first is brands. And I think I would qualify that and say category leading brands.
Yeah.
You've got to be 1 or 2. I would not want to be in the mid or the long tail anymore and own brands in the mid and the long tail. Not a great place to be. Really hard to defend. But there is something about the trust that comes with a category leading brand and the scale that has, which I think offers some protection. The second thing is talent, or we call it internally faces and voices. Audiences, and particularly younger audiences, have increasingly, they follow individuals, they follow talent, they don't follow brands. And that's the whole creator economy and all of that. And so actually that's quite hard for AI to replicate, because it's by its nature, it's generic, right? It can bring personality to it, but it's not a kind of talent brand per se. So that's the second thing. And then really there's 2, 3 other things which are defensible. IP, if you have unique IP, if you're Disney, you're sitting pretty happy right now in some regards, because you've got a ton of IP, which is super defensible. Community, Reddit is doing great. If you're Reddit, you're probably okay, right? There's lots of different players who have community. And then experiential in some shape or form. That could be live events, that could be virtual artificial reality, or a mixture of those. That's also defensible against AI. You don't necessarily need all of them, but I think you've got to go where you play. For us at Immediate, we're playing very much in the category leading brands piece. We're focusing now big time on talent and building our own external talent, as well as partnering with external talent. And then experiential, we have a significant live events business. We're thinking about how do we integrate, how do we redefine some of those propositions, how do we integrate it with our content and our brands. I think that's a very interesting opportunity there. So that's how we think about it and how we are approaching it from a strategic perspective, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, sure. There's a through line there, listening to you talking. And the through line really goes right back to that first thing you said about first-party data and the relationship that you have with that audience.
Yeah.
Because all of those things, whether it's the parasocial relationship that you have with voice and faces and voices, or whether it's getting people to actually come into a room or even an online virtual room, it's all about those relationships, right?
It is, really. And those relationships take different forms, right? It can be relationship with an individual, a talent, or through power of community, or through a direct subscription, or that want to have an experience, a live experience in some shape or form. I agree with you.
So you're heading up this business. You said right at the start, your whole working life has been about pure play, pure disruption, day in, day in, day in, day in.
Yeah.
And then you're now at Immediate. But, I'm an old magazine guy. I know that we kind of pine for the days of print and things not changing quite so much.
Yeah.
AI has put that disruption on steroids again.
Yeah.
But all the Immediate people that I've spoken to recently are really, really optimistic about that. So how did you pull that trick off?
Well, I guess it helps that I believe it. And I guess a lot of the things that we have done have reflected, what I've been saying about our approach and overall philosophy to it and our strategy. But more practically, we've really lent into this over the last 3 years, I would say, in a big way. And I'll give you some specific examples of things that we've done that perhaps are not unusual, but I'm not sure every media company or publisher or content producer is necessarily doing all of these things. So I think how you talk about it and the language you bring is important. I hear a lot of people who spend a lot of energy going, it's outrageous what Google is doing and what Amazon and Meta and OpenAI are doing. Yeah, maybe. Can't control it. Move on, right? So our energy is very much focused on the positive and the opportunity. And look, don't get me wrong, we look at the risks and the downsides and, what happens if, you lose 50% of your Google search traffic in 2 years' time. What does that mean for the business? It's not ideal, but it's not catastrophic, etc. But then we have focused very much on the opportunities and on trying to bring as much of the organization, everyone really, along with us on that journey. So we talk about it a lot. We have invested over the last 3 years a huge amount in upskilling and in learning programs. I mean, every summer we do this kind of summer of learning thing with lots of different workshops and programs that people can sign up to. It's not exclusively around AI, by the way, but a lot of it is around AI. We have done for the last 3 years experimentation days on a regular basis for the whole company. What are experimentation days? Some people might call them hackathons, but it's not engineering exclusive. And it's very much encouraging people to try projects, test new ideas, run with them. We have also set up a innovation fund. And I think maybe a more helpful way to think about it is a process rather than a fund. But essentially, it's a very quick way to give small amounts of money, 2,000, 5,000, 10,000, to internal ideas and internal projects. It's a cliche, right? There's tons of good ideas in your business. You just got to unlock them and get people the opportunity to go and run with them. And so with minimum process and bureaucracy, people can just pitch for this money, and we 8 times out of 10 give them that money. And, over the last few years, we've probably greenlit 50 different things, right? That's important because I'm a big believer that with all this change, you cannot succeed by being top down in terms of the answers. You've got to try and encourage and empower the bottoms up. So that's a big thing. And then something else, for example, that we've done is, we're constantly bringing in people to talk about it, to run workshops. We pulled together this day in March, which is now going to be an annual day. We called it Future Fest. And what was it? It was a day with, I think we had about 30, 35 different kind of speakers, events, workshops. And it was really like the kind of yin and yang of immediate. So we had 2 big keynote speakers. One was Lenny Henry, talking about how he thinks about creativity and the process and his career. And one was a chap called Benedict Evans, who is one of the leading commentators and analysts on technology change, disruption, AI, software, etc. And, we had people like one of the co-founders of DeepMind. We had people from venture capital. We had comedians. We had people who are expert at building brands. And we brought all these people together to foster ideas and to talk about, where we're heading and the future and what opportunities might look like and what the world might look like. This is all to create a kind of environment where people can embrace the future confidently. And look, we measure it as well, right? So your question, have you got people to be kind of positive about AI? I mean, I think there's 2 things, right? One is we measure how often people are actually using it at work. And I think it's 53%. This was actually from April this year. So I don't know what the numbers hopefully should have gone up again. But 53% of our people use AI tools on a weekly basis. 80+% use it on a monthly basis. And actually, over 60% of our people are excited or open-minded about AI and the opportunities. And only 5% are anxious about it. And I think that's reflective of the work that we've done and how we've just leant in and embraced it and talked about it and said, look, it's here. Let's figure this all out together. None of us know the answers.
I love the idea that you actually ask, because that's not that common, right? It's not that common to ask staff, what do you think about this? I also love the idea of Ben Evans and Lenny Henry on the same stage. That's just brilliant. And I think, the serious part of that is that you're not forgetting the human element we've got all this technology and it could potentially crush us, but not if we've got the humanity to look at it in a way that we're still doing what we've always done. We're just doing it differently.
Totally. I mean, I think the human thing is really important, but I think the challenge is trying to figure out, what does that human element actually mean? Because I think that there is a natural tendency to hide behind, well, it's human created content, therefore it's better. People are always going to want human created content. Come on. And actually, I think that's very dangerous thinking, right? Because yeah, we're creatures of habit, but we do change, albeit slowly, our habits. And actually, for a lot of stuff, and you see it in how AI overviews are used, and the percentage of searches now, starting in ChatGPT or Perplexity or wherever, people actually will get more and more used to AI written answers and content. So it's really, where can the human add the special? Where is it different? Where is trust the real tiebreaker? You've got to really think about, actually, what does human mean for your business, and how is that an advantage?
Where that issue of trust, I think, is fascinating these days, because trust in everything is going down.
Yeah, it's true.
But magazines, in a way, have an opportunity to lean into that, because, well, they're not trying to cover everything. I spoke to Neil Vogel just a couple of days ago.
Oh, yeah.
And one of the things that he said was an advantage of People Inc. is they don't do politics, they don't do sports, they don't do the things that people typically get polarized around. They do, whatever, home decorating or recipes, or celebrities or whatever.
I fully empathize with what he's saying.
Well, yeah, and Immediate's kind of in the same space, in the sense that it's specialist content, right? You've got experts, you've got Dave Musgrove, or you've got whoever it is that's doing the cooking magazines, or you've got all this expert content. Where does that trust come from? Is it just by being really, really good?
I mean, look, I think, it's like brand, right? It's built up slowly over time, and you can lose it very, very quickly, that trust or your brand. Where does it come from? Well, I mean, I think it comes from track record, from being clear about what you stand for, from having a very high bar over a long time, and from something that I talk about constantly in our business is this framework of, giving our audiences and our customers what they want, when they want it, how they want it, where they want it, right? And all these different elements, I think, build trust, that reliability, that quality, that real kind of satisfying a user need at its core, right?
Again, I guess it maybe goes back to that relationship as well. The fact that people, they come to you and you're there for this, for the stuff that they expect from you.
Yeah.
On the AI thing again, and you mentioned that there's things you can't control.
Yeah.
Google being one of them.
Yeah.
You talked about being defensible, your position being defensible. What's the defense against that no-click search thing?
I mean, it's very simply having as much of your audience, having a direct relationship with them, right? That could be they are what you term a known user, you've got their email, they've registered with you. It could be a paying subscriber. It could be just that the affinity to your brand is so strong. But you kind of have to know something about them, right? As opposed to it being an unknown user from a Google click who comes, reads one piece of content or consumes one piece of content in whatever format and then disappears and you don't know who they are. So that's it, very simply. We focused on it at Media for quite a few years now from a strategic point of view. but it's not easy to do. You've got to give people, again, it's partly trust and it's partly utility and it's partly value. You can't just say, I want that direct relationship with that user. Why, right? What's in it for them? Why are they going to enter into that relationship? It's got to be a compelling reason. The content's got to be good. It's got to be value add. There's got to be a degree of uniqueness, etc.
You mentioned utility, and I guess it was you that brought NutriCheck into Immediate.
Yeah.
Which again I find fascinating, the kind of marriage of those two things. And I think I asked Katja this question, but what does Immediate, other than users and revenue and blah 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 and all the great stuff, what does Immediate as a publishing company get from NutriCheck?
Why did we buy NutriCheck? I mean, it's a great business in and of its own sake, but I think we had a strong belief that you can marry audience and utility, content with service, and a tool and a service. And so we've got, the largest audience in the UK around food and health and wellness. And here you have a category leading app in that area, which has no content, but has a very, very useful, brilliantly designed tool and utility. And our hypothesis, we can bring the two together and 1 + 1 = 3. And, thankfully that has worked out, and that's proven to be the case. And, a lot of our audience, we have introduced them to NutriCheck, and that's been very successful from that perspective. And equally, we have integrated a lot of content from Good Food and elsewhere into the NutriCheck app and created a richer environment there. So it really works, right? I think that the reason, if you take a step back and are very dispassionate about things and you remove any brand loyalty, well, a recipe to make X, I can find it on lots of places online. And you can argue about who's, yes, some will be better quality, some will have been tested. We cook every recipe that we publish 3 times, etc. But if you're really dispassionate about it and you're a user and maybe you don't care that much about cooking, I can find this anywhere, right? So what is the reason that actually I come to you? And more, it's not about the uniqueness of content. It's not about how many exclusive recipes do I have that no one else has. Actually, it's about, is it a good user experience? Is it useful? Is it quick? Am I engaged? It's really that product, that user experience. It's those fundamentals which have been core to digital consumer, like pure play digital business, consumer businesses, since the internet began. But actually, those are relatively newer concepts, perhaps in worlds like publishing, right? But it's really fundamental if you want to be successful and you want to build that relationship, that direct relationship with an end user, you have to create a really good user experience.
My last question for you is a print question, which is really my question because I'm a print head.
Yeah.
Where does it all fit in? Radio times coming up to Christmas in 2 or 3 months' time. Sales will be nuts. Where does print fit in?
It's an interesting question. And I love the question. So a couple of thoughts. I no longer talk about internally the business and externally. I no longer talk about print and digital because actually I don't think it's very helpful. And I think that there's kind of merging. And by the way, our subscriptions, we're about to go live with bundles which bring the two together. So it's just not a very helpful descriptor, and it kind of presumes it's a zero-sum game and one wins at the expense of another, etc. Actually, fundamentally, it's about I'm platform agnostic. I just want to give our users what they want, where they want, when they want it, how they want it. Give them the best possible experience, right? That's a really important principle. the second is actually, it's quite interesting what's happened with books over the last 4 or 5 years and how new bookshops are now opening, and it's a growth category. Again, 20 years ago, well, for the last 20, 25 years, people have been forecasting the demise of print, of newspapers, of magazines, etc. They're still here. Yes, the numbers are much smaller. Are they going to disappear? I don't think so. In fact, in some shape or form, and it'll probably be a bit different to what it is now. And we're doing some interesting things around our Olive title, and we're changing the format and actually investing and making it bigger and thicker, but less frequent and more of a kind of coffee table thing, which I'm really interested to see how that goes. But I think you've got to imagine in this world of, it's a cliche, right? All these digital distractions and, more and more of the world is having to interact digitally with stuff. It's almost meditative, taking a step back and consuming a print product in your own time without a rush, without those dopamine hits firing off, right? And actually, the interesting question is not, what happens, is print going to be around or anything like that? I think that's the wrong question. It's actually, what does a brilliant print experience, what does a successful print experience look like in 2 years, 5 years going forwards, right? Because you're going to have to evolve it, but there sure as hell is opportunity there, right?
Thanks so much to Sean for taking the time to speak with us. Don't forget we have a write-up of the key learnings from this interview on voices.media, or dropping into your inbox every Tuesday if you sign up to the publisher newsletter, also on voices.media. And remember, Sean will be speaking at our AI forum in November, where alongside an incredible lineup of speakers, seriously, you need to go and check out the names on that list, we'll be running 6 expert-led masterclass workshops covering AI in management, AI in content, and AI in discovery. Find details on the workshops at voices.media. We'll be back next week with another look at the people and products powering publishing's future. Until then, keep up with all things Media Voices by following us on LinkedIn and subscribing to the publisher newsletter over on voices.media.